What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today we are kicking off our draft series where we're doing a mock draft for every single team in order. So we're starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars first, as they have that number one overall pick. Before we get into the draft, we just want to appreciate and shout out all the support you guys have given to the channel the last couple of weeks. We've been working hard putting out draft content for y'all, and you guys have just been absolutely awesome, liking, subscribing to the videos. In the comment section, we've had some awesome football discourse and talk. We're just chopping it up there. I love it. Even if you don't like the mock draft, let us know what you would have done differently. We love it. I don't even know if these mock drafts are that good anyways. So let's get into it. Jacksonville Jaguars. And we're going to start with that first overall pick. And I don't think it's crazy for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be shopping this pick around. If teams want to trade up maybe for a quarterback or whatever player they want, I would have my ears open. You look through this depth chart, it's got a lot of holes in it. I think they did a really good job in free agency addressing a lot of these holes. Yeah, they might have overpaid for guys like Christian Kirk or Zay Jones. But the moral of the story is they're going to be better week one than they were week 16 of last year, and they needed to do that. They needed desperately to improve that offensive talent around Trevor Lawrence. They obviously cut Myles Jack, so that linebacker room is something that we definitely have to take a look at. I think also towards the back end, maybe a safety or an interior defensive lineman could be the play. But I am not opposed to trading back and getting some more capital. We're going to see something like this. If the Lions wanted to trade up, I would say probably for Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to get a second-round pick next year as well. Let's just get draft capital. We're going to accept this trade. Trade back to number two. Yeah, they go up and get Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think that's crazy. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars could now certainly be looking at either a Kayvon Thibodeaux, because I really don't think there's much of a difference between Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeaux. I do have Aiden Hutchinson as my number one player on the board. Kayvon Thibodeaux's number three. I think Kyle Hamilton could certainly be the pick as well, which sounds a little crazy getting a safety with that number two overall pick, but he is one of the best prospects in the country. So it's coming down to, do we want to get Evan Neal and kind of continue to build around Trevor Lawrence? I don't know if we'll do that since they franchise tag Cam Robinson. Do you want to get Kayvon Thibodeaux and kind of get that elite pass rush with him and Josh Allen, or Kyle Hamilton and build around that secondary? My brother would be so proud of me for this. We're going to go take Kyle Hamilton at number four. I think it's a really deep edge class. We have our position. I just worked through our position rankings earlier today. I mean, it's a very, very deep class for edge rushers. Kayvon Thibodeaux obviously is a phenomenal prospect, along with Evan Neal. But I think that they shored up that offensive line, and I wouldn't be opposed to looking at another wide receiver again. Looking at this depth chart, I was super excited for Laviska Shenault. It just, they haven't really seemed to figure out how they want to use him. And I think Zay Jones, I mean, Christian Kirk, they're paying him wide receiver one money, but realistically, I think he's more of a solid wide receiver two. That was the one that, like, yeah, you overpaid. And like that, I think they overpaid maybe just a little bit too much. If Chris Olave fell to pick 28, I don't think that would be too crazy to start looking at. Here we got 43. We're going to pass on those. I don't think it'd be super crazy to be kind of looking at trading up for Chris Olave. And yeah, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Drake London, but I think if he's here, yeah, you have questions about his long speed. He's just a big body who Trevor Lawrence is going to love to get the ball to. Trevor Lawrence showed tremendous chemistry with Justin Ross. I think Drake London has a very similar game to Justin Ross. Yeah, the windows might be a little bit tight, but Trevor Lawrence has the arm talent to get it through him. And there's really not a better player than Drake London in terms of playing above the rim and going and getting the football. So Drake London at 32 is just an absolute steal, in my opinion. 33. Now we got all these picks. Looking back at what we could have done, Lewis Cine, Jaquan Brisker, those are guys that I really, really like. Maybe waited on the safety and went and got him. Check that interior offensive line. I know they got Brandon Scherf, Cam Robinson. I think this is the point where you could go get Zion Johnson too, who can play. I mean, Zion Johnson's a top 25 player on our board. There's not really many more solid offensive linemen than Zion Johnson. The floor is just so high with him. I don't know if he'll be the absolute playmaker that like a Tyler Linderbaum or Kenyon Green might be, but Zion Johnson's just going to be a plug and play guy who's going to start for your week one. He's going to be really, really good for you. I also love Jahan Dotson. You guys know that. You guys know I like me some Jahan Dotson. And I also like Tyler Smith a lot. Tyler Smith's a guy that if you want to get the run game going, he's got some absolute power in his hands. Let's get Zion Johnson. I mean, the Jaguars are in the business of getting the best player available, and Zion Johnson's the best player available on the board right now. All right, pick 34. Look at it. We got all these picks. We're just working on getting the best players that we can. David Ajabo is a guy that obviously tore his Achilles, and he's falling in the draft. But I think he's a very special talent. He's a guy that could have gone as high as the top 15. Let's make sure we don't like any other edge guys before him. Arnold Ebiketie might be the pick here. Arnold Ebiketie's just, yeah, he's not as exciting as David Ajabo because David Ajabo's like physical tools are insane. But Arnold Ebiketie, there's not many edge defenders who put better film out this last year than Arnold Ebiketie. He uses his hands at such a high level. I think you pair him up with Josh Allen and you got a very, very elite pass rush. I think you also could be looking at a linebacker like Christian Harris. Christian Harris is my guy. That being said, I think we're going to take a wait on the linebackers because I really like, we got picks 65 and 66. I really like guys like Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, even a Brandon Smith or Troy Anderson are guys that I have extremely high on my board. I also have Leo Chenal really high on my board, who the Draft Network doesn't really like as much. So let's go back up to this pick 33. We'll go back to the big board, and I think we go get one of these edge guys who have fallen a little bit, and that's going to go be Arnold Ebiketie, who we have a fringe first round grade on. But this guy, you just know what you're going to get. You get a guy who has got absolutely elite hands. I know he's not as flashy of a pick as David Ajabo might be, but he just gets it done. You pull up his stats. He's double-digit tackles for loss, double-digit sacks last year. Watching him as a Michigan fan, he just absolutely tore us up. Arnold Ebiketie is the pick there. He's just such a stud. Now we're looking. We got 2 picks early third round. I'm really going to be targeting one of these linebackers. And I don't even hate the idea of getting a few linebackers here. Quay Walker and Channing Tindall are just extremely close to me. Channing Tindall's a guy that you haven't seen as much football. He's only played 600 snaps just because he struggled with Monte Rice last year. Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, all those guys are such a loaded linebacker unit. But when he started to play, he pretty much took Quay Walker's spot. And I'm not going to say Kirby Smart is wrong, but both those linebackers, he just had to find a way to get those guys on the field. Quay Walker and Channing Tindall started kind of splitting snaps. And Channing Tindall's a guy that, I mean, he just sideline to sideline speed is just absolutely bonkers. So you can either pick between Quay Walker, who just has a little bit more film on him, versus Channing Tindall, who's just a little bit more flashy. You can't go wrong with either of these Georgia linebackers. I think right now we're going to go with Quay Walker. I think he's got the edge. People are talking about taking him in the late first round. But again, if you wanted to go Channing Tindall, even if you wanted to go Brian Asamoah, I wouldn't argue with you too much. They got Evan Ingram. If they didn't get, and quite frankly, I think you could take a look at Trey McBride anyways. Trey McBride, no, we're going Jalen Pitre. That's just a lock, actually. Jalen Pitre, I think he's going to play more of like a nickel cornerback, a safety that can walk into the box. I mean, you get Jalen Pitre and Kyle Hamilton in your secondary. And this is, I get we got Kyle Hamilton in the first round, and Andre Cisco played some good ball too. But this is just the best player available guy. Jalen Pitre was just extremely impressive. When you're taking a look at what players you want to draft, you want to get guys who have put their handprints all over the game. Jalen Pitre is a guy that puts his handprints all over the football game. We'll get Jalen Pitre with that number 66 pick. I think it's just really just the value is just too good to pass up. Now we got pick 70. So what's that? 7 picks in the top 70. And this is kind of going back to why we traded back. this draft class is less about the top end guys and it's more about the depth. The depth in this class is just absolutely incredible. Sky Moore is a guy that I really like. I also really like John Mechie. Sky Moore is just both these guys are just butterly smooth, off to butterly smooth at the line of scrimmage, creating separation. Now, who you want to go? Sky Moore, he had the fastest 10-yard split at the combine, or do you want to go John Mechie, who's coming off an injury? But the film John Mechie put together at Alabama the last 2 years was just absolutely incredible. You could go either way. Injury concerns maybe come into play, and we'll go Sky Moore. Sky Moore's a guy that he's going to fit right in. I mean, Sky Moore immediately becomes your Drake London, Christian Kirk, and probably Sky Moore, maybe Marvin Jones. The moral of the story is you're just getting weapons for Trevor Lawrence. I think Laviska Shenault might slide into more of that Deebo Samuel role where it's like you're just going to try to get the ball in his hands kind of in space. And then you kind of fill out those wide receivers who are just much more solid around Trevor Lawrence, who are going to create space and get separation. But I just want to go with the Bama. We're going to go with this is more of just a bias. The Bama wide receivers, they always seem to figure it out at the NFL level. I get the injury concerns you might have. At the end of the day, he's an Alabama receiver who normally works out at the next level. As much as I like Sky Moore, we'll go John Mechie here with the 3rd round pick just because that floor is just so high. I'm excited to look at this haul. We've gotten a lot of really good players with those 6, 7, top 70 picks. And there's still some guys that I really like on the board here. I wish we started looking maybe a little bit more at this interior offensive line. Logan Hall is a guy that I really like. I think he's very scheme specific, though. I think he's a 3 tech, but that's pretty much all. I don't know how much I want to play him as a 5 tech outside on the edge. And he definitely probably doesn't have enough sand in the pants to kind of play over the center or guard either. I like Jay Tufali. He didn't get much burn for the Jags this year, but yeah, we might just need to go Logan Hall based on just the best player available. I have a day 2 grade on him. He's falling to day 3, early round 4. We'll probably have to go get Logan Hall. He's a guy that he's got a tool bag of pass rush moves. He plays with good leverage. He's 6'6", and he carries his weight really well. He came into Houston at 240 pounds, all the way up to 280 pounds now. I think 278 or something. He's a ball player, and he's put on that really good weight that you like to see. Now, I think the Jaguars could have been looking at more of a true interior defensive lineman. You're obviously not going to get Jordan Davis unless he trades for those picks, maybe around 20. Travis Jones, Devontae Wyatt, Perrion Winfrey, all the guys that have really high grades on here. Well, looks like they don't have that round 5 pick, which is okay. Rasheed Walker is a guy that I think he's going to be a really good right tackle / guard. We might need to try to trade up for Leo Chenal real quick. Yeah, we're gonna trade up for Leo Chenal real quick. Let's go get that 140 pick. We'll give you 157, and hell, we'll give you 188 and 197. No, we got a proposed trade to the Jets next. And we'll give you 188 and 197. Trade's been accepted. Back to Sin we go. Did I do something wrong here? I did something wrong. We didn't get Chenal. I don't know what I did there. 163, unfortunately, we didn't get Leo Chenal. I think I just did something wrong. Good thing Jamar Salyer is on the board. This guy's a guy that he played left tackle for the Georgia Bulldogs, the national champions. During that game, he switched in the guard. I see him much more as an interior guy, but he's going to be just a dynamite interior guy. Zion Johnson, Jamar Salyer, 2 guys who have really high floors and are going to be really good at the NFL level. I think they're going to both be solid starters at that level. Wouldn't mind. Oh no, Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones is the pick. Go get that nickel. He's Marcus Jones, man. When I talk about having handprints on the football game, Marcus Jones is not only like he's gonna be, yeah, he's a little shorter. He's 5'8". He's gonna be a very good nickel cornerback. And at the end of the day, having a good nickel cornerback is extremely important. Him, Jalen Pitre, those are gonna be guys that you're gonna just get to feel out. And they're gonna be playmakers in that secondary. Kyle Hamilton, Jalen Pitre, uh, you had Tyson Campbell last year. Now we just went and took Marcus Jones. But the thing on Marcus Jones is he's like one of the best special team guys. He's not just value at the special teams level. There's a couple of guys who, yeah, they will be kick and punt returners. Marcus Jones was about the best special team returner, both kickoff and punt, that we've seen in like the last decade of college football. So even if you're not even planning on starting him at nickel, he's worth a draft pick this high because he's that good of a returner. Like that's the type of stuff that changes games. I'm very comfortable taking that pick. And then we'll go get Josh Pascal, a guy that I'm extremely high on. He and Logan Hall are very versatile. Yeah, I think they're both kind of three techs, but they both can play kind of on the outside. But I think Josh Pascal, man, his get off for 280 pounds is unbelievable. He has he's a high character guy, 5-year guy at Kentucky, 2-time captain. He had leukemia when he was there. He battled through that. And just like when you ask about, if you were to ask Mark Stoops, the head coach at Kentucky, like who led that team, he would say Josh Pascal and Harvey's. He's not only just a high character dude, but he plays at a really high level too. We have him much, much higher than a 6th-round pick. Kind of a steal there. No, we haven't addressed. I mean, we've gotten 2 guys who I think can play 3 tech, but not really. They can't play nose. They can't play the 1 tech. We could take a look at that interior offensive line as well. That being said, there's just not many guys that you're that excited about. Marquand McCall is just really big, 2-gapper. I don't get super excited about those guys. I prefer when I'm drafting my interior defensive linemen to get guys who have a little bit more lateral quickness and can kind of make plays in space. Marquand McCall is not really that. I get there's a time and place for that, but I feel like you can kind of put in anyone you want at that spot. So we're gonna pass on him there. Velus Jones, he's just a speedster. Chance Campbell. There's some linebackers that I really like kind of this late in the draft. And obviously I messed up and didn't get Leo Chanel, which was just, imagine doing that on draft day. Can't do it. Can't let that happen. Jermaine Waller's a guy that you just can't touch. I don't mind his film actually, but you just can't touch it with the 4.78 speed. I mean, like you just can't keep up with the wide receivers at that level. You just have to pass on him, unfortunately. The running back room is set with Travis Etienne. I like taking a look at some of those linebackers, but it looks like that's pretty set. Bo Melton's a guy that he might help Trevor Lawrence with just getting him in space. Tate Martin is a guy that I like. We're going to go up and get Marquand McCall. At a certain point, you kind of do need that like 2-gapper guy. And Marquand McCall, let's just pull up a picture of this dog real quick because he is an absolute animal. The big bully. He's the big bully. He's got a big tummy. He moves all right. Like honestly, kind of like Jordan Davis. Like he moves pretty well. But he's just gonna be a guy in the interior. Like when you need to have a guy who's gonna stand up guys. He's only 6'3", but he's 380 pounds. Like he's a hard guy to move. He's a hard guy to move who's that low to the ground. We're gonna go get that Marquand McCall, the big bully. I think his Instagram bio is to finish out this draft. Scrap that. We have one more pick. Let's go. Let's make some moves. Jack Sanborn, just a really productive. Both those Wisconsin linebackers tested a lot better. DeMarco Jackson is a guy that I really like too. I really like Chance Campbell. Chance Campbell's a guy who just completely changed that Ole Miss defense. I mean, he was just all over the field making plays for them. Got a few Michigan transfers, Jordan Anthony, Drew Singleton. All right, let's just go get Jack Sanborn, a guy who's just a really good football player. He's been at Wisconsin. He was at Wisconsin with Zach Bond, and they were starting together. He's been there he's kind of a journeyman in the NFL, at the NFL level. Yeah, he's a little capped athletically, but a lot of these guys in the 7th round are going to be capped athletically. He's just a good football player. He's going to be a good special teamer, like a punt protector. He's going to make the 53-man roster. And when you're taking guys in the 7th round, you want those guys to ideally have that spot on the 53-man roster. You look at that linebacker, like Jameer Jones is an undrafted guy. Dylan Moses has a lot of question marks. It's just get guys who are going to make the team, be at least a depth guy. And let's take a look at I love this draft because we traded back one spot, then we picked up 32, 33, and 65. I mean, that's just a really, really good draft haul. And we made some really good picks with those guys. Kyle Hamilton at number 2. He's he's a unicorn. We haven't really seen a guy like him since like Derwin James. But I'd argue Kyle Hamilton even is a better prospect. Honestly, if you didn't say he was a safety, you told me he was that good as an edge guy, he'd be the number 1 pick easily. Drake London falling to 32, absolute steal. Zion Johnson is also kind of a steal in that regard, where it's just not necessarily a massive position in need, but he's just a really good football player. He's done it a long time at BC. Arnold Ebiketie, he's my personal favorite guy. I mean, he's just a really good football player who's maybe a little bit capped athletically in the terms of like, were we going to pick David Ajabo or Drake Jackson? But he's just a really good football player. He uses hands extremely well. You pull up his stats, and he just lit up the stat sheet. Ebiketie. Pull up his stats real quick. You got to type in stats. Sports Reference, easily the best place to get your stats. Senior year at Penn State, 9.5 sacks, 18.5 tackles for loss, plays the run extremely well, gets in the backfield. I mean, that's 18.5 tackles for loss, more than Aiden Hutchinson. Hey, Arnold Ebiketie is an absolute dominant guy. Quay Walker, just a very good linebacker, probably a day 1 starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jalen Pitre, a guy that's being talked about going in that early 2nd round, maybe even late 1st round, a guy that just makes plays. John Mechie, could have gone Sky Moore there. I was really conflicted. Logan Hall, another good player. Jamari Salyer. You can't go wrong with the Georgia guys. You just can't. Marcus Jones, Josh Pascal, 2 of my favorite guys. And then we get big bully Marquand McCall and Jack Sanborn to round out this draft. I'm actually thrilled with how this draft went. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are certainly in the market for trading down and just acquiring draft capital and filling out that team around them. If I were to look back and think about one more thing I would have done, is maybe put a little bit more emphasis on, we got Drake London, we got John Mechie, 2 guys who I would expect to contribute pretty consistently for the Jacksonville Jaguars next year. And I would have maybe said, maybe let's get one more, maybe a tackle I would have done, or a more high-end interior defensive lineman. We got Logan Hall and Josh Pascal, but they're more of a 3-tech, not really 2-gap interior defensive lineman. Maybe a guy like Travis Jones would have been the pick if he was available kind of at 65. That'll do it on our first episode series for those mock drafts for each team as we come up to the NFL draft. As usual, we appreciate all the support you guys have given us. We love putting out these mock drafts. Let us know in the comment section how we did, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.